All right, standing by. Here we go. We're going live here, folks, in a moment. Okay. Hi, I'm Lori Lewis, host of Unstoppable Podcast, and we are now starting a live YouTube channel. We did one 2 weeks ago with Dr. Leslie Heafy, and she is the president of the board for the International Women's Baseball Center. She's a historian. She also works with the Society for American Baseball Research. So we had this really fun conversation about baseball and women in baseball. She's so fun to have on. So tonight, though, my live guest is Seth Baxter. Seth, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, Lori Lewis, Lori the Great. I am
So,
extremely excited.
oh, we are going to talk about women's sports, okay? And
Yes,
we have a
indeed.
couple topics tonight, but I want to tell people about your podcast first. And wow, I have the honor of being on your podcast, which is a very successful podcast called Maker's Bar. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I want you to tell us a little about yourself as well.
Absolutely. Well, Makersport is a podcast network with four of the colleagues of mine, and the owner, Akatsa. I always mess up her name, so I call her AK like AK-47 because she shoots a gun directly. She's a businesswoman, she's warm-hearted, and she has direct focus on where she wanted the network to go. And Makersport is a network that looks to speak to leaders and cutting edge thought thought providers, thought leaders, and people who are doing things that are not traditional. They're making a mark. They're making their own mark, like yourself with women in sports. Her goal was to have podcasters like myself to come on and introduce with a warmth and a conversational model to introduce them to people who might not have seen them and those who have seen them, but to see them in a new light. So we have a podcast network with myself and my colleagues, Troy, Jennifer, Ashwina, and I'm going to mess up his last name, so I won't say his last name, but it'll come back to me. And our goal is to expose the public to those people who have new technologies, new artists, new books, new visions as far as their podcasts are going, new music, and new ways that they're looking at AI technology. We focus a great deal on CEOs, but we also focus on new technologies. And I've had the opportunity to share with my colleagues, all of us have been focusing on new people that people can get to know in a warm way. That's Makersport, creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. And those leaders are people like yourself.
I had a blast because I've been a radio DJ for many, many years and I've done podcasting and all kinds of stuff. But only a few times have I been interviewed myself. And so having you interview
You're a
me,
great guest.
oh, I had so much fun. It's just it's a different thing, to be
I
interviewed
felt
and to talk
nervous
about yourself.
myself. Well, the thing was, you have so much experience. I'm new to podcasting as we'll get into some of my history, but I just felt like you were an expert in doing this field, particularly when you talk to the greats who have already had radio experience and podcast experience. You're somewhat intimidated, and I felt intimidated, but I felt like we just hit it off so well. Our camaraderie and our humor, we have a great sense of the same style of humor, and I just thought you did a great deal. And Maker's Bar provides that format. And I'm really particularly happy that you chose to select my show, in particular with my colleagues there. I have a number of great colleagues as well. But Maker's Bar is really trying to spotlight persons like yourself. And I was just so honored that you came on my show.
Well, it was a blast, and I couldn't wait to have you on mine. And I'd like to have you on frequently because, yeah, we make good co-hosts. So,
We
tell
do.
us more. Yeah, tell us more now about your background. Did you grow up in the Los Angeles area?
I do not. I'm a native of New York. I'm born in Manhattan,
Oh,
born to Lawford and Juanita Baxter, one of about 18 kids, which I know sounds like a lot. Yes, and both my parents were missionaries, and they really had a love of children. And my house was not quiet, but my mom had radio background herself. She had a Spanish
uh,
ministry where she spoke to Spanish people and brought them to the Lord. And my dad was a all around sports advocate himself. He did boxing, track. He did every kind of football, every kind of sports you can imagine. And with all of us, they had us in some kind of way engaged in some activity. And coming from New York, my brother, my second oldest brother said, I think the second word out of your mouth was California. So I fell in love with this girl. I fell in love with this girl who told me to get into modeling. Now, for we as Christian family with 18 kids, modeling and a dude don't match. and so and so I fell in love with her. I followed her to California, came to California, and California was a place where I felt that I really have the opportunity to kind of really see things. Because if you're in New York, it's not that you're in an echo chamber, because New York is its own expansive universe, but New York is always looking at California as California is looking at New York. And so when I came to California, I felt that this was the place I was supposed to be. Moved to California, did a little bit of modeling work, did a little bit of college. The girl left me for someone else and ended up homeless. I was sleeping on the streets in Venice.
Wow.
Yes, sleeping on the streets in Venice. And I remember because my parents had always told me about people having good hearts. And I was sleeping on the streets. And I remember one time I was sleeping at Abbot Kinney Boulevard, and a little tiny woman, and true story, little tiny woman, she saw me. I had newspapers up against my Datsun B210. My Datsun B210 was blue and had a hatchback, and I had newspapers against the windows. And I was opening up the door thinking I'm going to get my cup of coffee and then drive my car with my $5 left of gas to go to IHOP and get showered and so forth. I opened up the door. The woman was standing there, and she said, "If you help me with my groceries, I'll give you some chicken and $10." I
Oh,
I couldn't believe that. And that was in Venice. So I helped her. I was so surprised also that she wasn't afraid of me. And it just changed my whole perspective on what I thought California was. And when I helped her with the groceries and went inside, I really felt that, okay, I'm going to be able to do something here. I didn't know what, but I knew I was going to do something here. So I went and showered, got myself together, got myself showered, got a job working with young people who had autism, and
wow.
began working there and got myself off on my feet from being homeless, and ended up staying in California some years later. And from that, I started working with young people in youth and government, which was a big part of my career with the YMCA, and taught young people government how to develop bills and strategies. And during that whole time, when we were younger, I had a teen radio talk show, and that
Hmm.
teen radio talk show was a big part of this. And I didn't know anything about it. I just did what they told me, but I knew I wanted to do something. So my youngest son was going off to school, and I wanted to see what I could do. And I put out feelers as far as what is this podcasting? And everyone was saying, everyone has a podcast now. And I didn't want to just be everyone, because I've always been a weirdo in my family. I was the black kid in a small town with dreadlocks and wanted to hear R&B music and rock and roll music. And but I had this interest in all these wonderful people my dad told me about, and I took that experience. And this incredible woman saw some of the work I did with the Dalai Lama and Bishop Tutu, and said, "Hey, I want
Wow.
to create this podcast network where people can get connected with incredible other people, leaders of tomorrow." And she was the founder of Makers Bar Network and gave me an opportunity to start a show on Makers Bar Network.
How cool. Now, oh wow, so many things going through my mind. So I guess I thought you meant New York City, but you just mean the state of New York you grew up. Okay.
Born in
So
Manhattan,
small town, yeah.
correct.
Ok.
Born in Manhattan, raised in Amityville, Long Island, and then moved to Albany, New York.
I have to interject here too. It's amazing with the economy such as it is, how close so many people are to being homeless. So for you to have experienced that, I mean, some people are just, one paycheck away from living on the streets. So I think it's really inspiring, encouraging that you were able to turn that around.
Well, I always first give glory to God. I thank God very much for being the center of my life. And second, I really must say that my parents really taught me that people are good. I do believe that. And the kids I worked with, 3,000 kids a year with the Youth and Government Program. We were the One Love Coalition. And why we were that was because when the woman told me that if you help me, I just couldn't believe that she could have been totally afraid of me being in my car and not doing that, but she took a
Hmm.
risk on me. And so overcoming that was part of that was I really was surprised and I believed that people really do want to be good. We want to love. We want to spread that. And that had
Mm.
become my focus my whole life. And I had a great girlfriend. She was Guyanese, and I always say Guyanese because they're hardworking people. And she helped me to get myself back on my feet. And she said, "You have something out there to do in California." And I knew I was supposed to be here to do something else. And I can't say enough about the fact that the struggle is real, but the hope is also real. And my
Mm.
life, my life here has been filled with incredible young people that teach me every single day that we are
Wow.
going to make a change significantly, and that teach me every day that love and helping people are a real thing.
Well, I wanted people to know a little bit about you, and as we keep talking, of course, we're both storytellers, so we'll have lots of stories along the way.
Sure,
But we're not experts, either one of us, on sports and on women
correct,
in sports. I'm
correct.
learning as
Except
I'm
Ronda
going
Rousey,
along.
chick, Ronda Rousey. We gotta say Ronda Rousey, so we'll include that. No, we're not experts, but that's one of my chicks.
There we go. So, and Holly Holm is, my girl, um, and we got stories about all these things. But yeah, we want to talk about women in MMA and the UFC. One of the topics, but like I said, I wanted people to get to know you a little bit. And the reason that I'm doing Unstoppable podcast, we do this 30-minute produced audio podcast. We start out with a voice actress, my friend Dawn Conrad, which whenever I say her name on voice texting, it thinks I'm saying Don. And I think, is that because of my Chicago accent? I don't know. But but she's wonderful. And I was in radio with her and with her husband, Terry, who I have known, I'm not kidding you, 40 years. I just turned 66 this last week. So I've been
You
doing
don't look it
broadcasting.
beautiful.
Well, thank you, thank you. Um, Good lighting too, but
Oh no, chick. No, you the
so
Instagram photo, Lori. Wait a minute, my sweetheart. We gotta talk about the Instagram photo. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hook up with a good dude, but she's married. I gotta make sure. But no, Lori, no, you
I've been
you look
married 31
incredible.
years now. So yeah,
God
I
bless.
have
That's
a
beautiful.
wonderful husband. Yeah. So,
For sure.
but when I was a little girl, I grew up in Chicago area. We say Chicagoland, and I wanted to play third base for the Chicago Cubs. I mean, no, you got to understand, music and baseball were my world, right? And I had a bedroom. I remember that I come from a family of six kids, by the way, which now sounds small compared to your family, but um, but my brother painted my room Chicago Cub blue, and
Oh yeah.
then every inch of my wall was covered with Cub paraphernalia. Okay. And it was an era when it was Ron Santo, Ernie Banks, Mr. Cubs, Billy Williams, Jim Hickman. I could go on and on. But I also wanted to play, and I was obsessed with playing. And I mean, I really thought I could make it to the major leagues. I thought maybe other girls can't, but I can. And I had a great arm by the time I was in college. And mind you, this is back, you know, um, I graduated high school in 1978, so women weren't as yet really playing that much, right? And so when I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, with the radar gun, I threw a fastball overhand 68 miles an hour. Now, by today's standards, that's not a big deal. But then for a little tiny woman, that was pretty darn good.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
um, so it's what gave me my passion for sports. It's really dry, by the way, in California. Well, no, I won't say dry, hot, and it's making me thirsty because we do have humidity. But
Oh
um,
my goodness. Yo, Lori, I just came back from New York not too long ago. The humidity with my best friend Val, we were not believing how crazy it was as far as the heat. So
oh,
and wait a
yeah, it's a
minute.
different thing,
So
huh?
it is a totally different thing because of humidity.
Yeah.
So here in California, we've been experiencing it this last 2 weeks. It's been insane.
Yeah, and I'm closer to the beach, so it's little cooler. They keep saying heat wave, but I'm like, we haven't gotten to 80 yet at the beach area.
Ah,
So I'm not right on the beach, but very close. But anyway, so yeah, we're kind of wimps weather-wise in California until it starts. We get LA and inland start getting 100, you know. It's more rare, right? Unless you keep going further inland. But anyway, geography is not my strong suit. But anyway, so I just have this passion for sports, and Seth, wanted to give women a voice, and tell these stories about women who've already accomplished these amazing things, right? So I know you're a big sports fan too, and we've talked about that. We both love MMA and UFC, mixed martial arts. So I thought it'd
and
be
women's
fun.
basketball. Women's
Oh
basketball
yeah,
also. My
yeah.
my wife, she played women's basketball. Susie, she played all the way through junior varsity through high school until she
Ah,
hurt her knee. So yeah, and
wow.
then my sister Sophie played softball, baseball, and basketball, and even tried to get in football. So and then my mom even played softball, which was very different because my mom was a World War II woman, and that was a whole. And I'm curious what you think about that, Lori, because World War II women, you know what I used to think about? Lori, let's backtrack. Remember A League of Their Own?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
In fact,
so
I have a guest coming up on my show, Patricia Pelton, who was one of the team members and she had a smaller part in the movie, but she had lines. And so I got to interview her recently. That'll be coming out. But yeah, that's a
I'm
great
looking
movie.
forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that because when I saw A League of Their Own, I remember my dad telling me that women have participated in a number of those sports, but it was so fascinating to me to see that women did baseball. It didn't seem right, let alone football when it came later. But I do remember that women had this really serious edge when it came to their focus and determination. And I didn't see that really more focused in until I came to women's MMA. So the sports prior, knowing that I have women in my background that had these other sports, but women's boxing and women's MMA, those became like, how is that? And let
Yeah.
alone my love for women in basketball. I married my wife, and my wife was a professional basketball player. She was even having scholarships to go to basketball as well. So ex-wife, but my best friend. I
Ah,
love my ex-wife dearly, and so I've always had a fascination with the fact that women have such a competitive edge and they can be such great sports persons. And and I need to say, you have introduced me to one of my new champion female sports people, Asia, and I told you I have to say her name like
oh,
this.
Asia
Asia
Smiley.
Hot Sauce. So we gotta say it like this. Asia Hot Sauce
Yeah.
Smiley. And I
Isn't
told
she
Asia,
dynamite? She's
oh my
amazing.
gosh, she's a dynamo. She's an
Flag
absolute
football
dynamo.
player. Yeah.
Yes, she
In
well,
fact, our episode about her just came out yesterday. So that's on
I gotta check it out.
unstoppablepodcast.net. Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers now.
Oh, I am too. You know what? Not only her last name fits her so well, Smiley. She is such a dynamo. Her story is impactful. I was so glad that you turned me on to her because her story is extremely inspirational, and I really look to her for some of my nieces and women that are in my family. She began that for her daughter.
Yeah. And she's still a young woman. I mean, she's
Yes,
in her, mid 20s maybe, and she's playing, flag football and all over the world. But yeah, so that's a great story. So,
it was an
and by
incredible
the
story.
way, I also wanted to go backwards and say, women were playing professional men's baseball as far back as the turn of the century. Alta Weiss is another podcast that we have, one of our audio podcasts. But okay, so let's go to the MMA because there's so much fun stuff to talk about in women's sports in general. But that Ronda Rousey fight to start with had
February 13th.
it had the last one where she she lost, but
Oh yeah, big
17
fan.
million viewers. So who cares about women's sports? Apparently a
A
lot of
lot of
people.
people.
No, I mean there was a whole ticket that night too, but wow, just the fact that that was one of the main events, that shows you, a lot of people do care. And I'm curious to ask you, why do you like women fighters. I mean, there's a lot of men that are like they don't care, right? But
I'm gonna nerd out. I'm gonna nerd out on you.
do it.
So as a kid, I was a comic book fan. And in comic books, there's Wonder Woman and there's She-Hulk. And now, let alone the fact that I was attracted to them as a kid, like, oh my gosh, here's these beautiful women that can do this hardcore sports stuff. But there was something really quite fascinating about women taking that edge and doing something unique with it. Because I think there's a sexist thing that traditionally is women can't be tough. There's a toughness that men who are gentlemen will give to women. Women are tough because they bear children. Women are tough, they are formidable politicians. But there's this other element where women, as fighters and as soldiers, fascinated me with Wonder Woman and She-Hulk. Wonder Woman was an Amazon. They had conquered the male tribes. Not necessarily that is a horrible thing, hee hee, that women women could be down with men, but there was something to show that women's competitive edge was extremely fascinating to me. And seeing women fight in their own league really was something unique because my mom, and I have to say this, and mom, I'm going to give you your props. When we were younger, my mom said women must always understand how to defend themselves as well. And that was something very
Wow.
unique. Yes. And
Yeah.
she taught my sisters how to be able to defend themselves. And I don't know why, because how it engaged me, but my mom wanted my sisters to be able to know how to do that and retain their femininity. So that got me interested in
You can
women
do both.
fighters. Yeah. And it got me
Yeah.
very interested in women fighting. So I remember February 13th, Ronda Rousey and her fight. The UFC, I was going back to UFC watching in Reseda, California, years before that, and women fighters and women boxers. Because Layla Ali, I remember going to see Layla Ali fight in boxing tournaments. And so when Ronda Rousey came about, there was an underground swell of women MMA fighters. And Ronda Rousey was this dynamo that was, she was yoked, she was pretty, she was smart, she was strategic. That just fascinated me. I saw that first fight, I was enthralled because it demonstrated a woman who was competitive in fights, that she didn't lose her femininity, but also she was a sports competitor. She was an athlete like Serena, like Venus, where it really gave a role model to other women to show that we as women athletes, we can also be competitive without losing who we are as women. And this is us as women as a whole. And so, and actually, I must say also, be prior to marrying my wife, I remember going to Sparks games, women in
Mm,
basketball, and
right.
they were some of the most challenging games because women. A lot of people felt, a lot of my dudes and I, we were enthralled by the games. Women in basketball, they were some of the most interesting games, and it wasn't because it was just watching beautiful women play basketball. It was because they were chess players on the basketball court. That was the same thing with women in MMA and UFC
Yeah.
fighting. They were chess players. They counted the moves, they counted the right hooks, they counted their kicks. And when they trained 10 times harder. They always said, I'm going to fight just as hard as a male, but it was with retaining their femininity. So women in MMA had always been something fascinating to me, just as equal to the men in MMA.
I wish you could see it on camera, but I am wearing my Property of Jackson Wink t-shirt right now.
Really great. Oh, yes. Really great
Jackson Wink,
tutu.
yeah, and of course, Jackson Wink in Albuquerque is wow, and they're coming back at the top. I don't know if you've seen Gable Stevenson yet,
I
coming
have
out of
not
Jackson
yet.
Wink. Whoo, wow, he just won his debut fight, and he's amazing. And then, of course, they just had two fighters at the White House. I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
bring up
That's
any
its
no
own thing.
political thing, but yeah, well, that's
That's
a
its own
there's
thing.
two
That's its own
issues,
thing.
there. Yeah, that's its own thing. Yeah, but as far as just the fights, right? But I mean, and so they had John Bone Jones, right? Is from Jackson Wink, and then
Very much
Holly
for sure.
Holmes. So I have gotten to interview
Holly
both
Holmes
Mike.
is another great fighter, by the way. Never can
Oh, yeah,
discount
she's
Holly.
my
She
favorite.
has a hook. Oh, she has a hook. And then
And
Lori,
that kick,
if
man,
I
wham.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna say, and then Lori, I got to ask you. So your interest in women fighters came from where?
Okay, so well, and by the way, I just wanted to interject. I do projects with Jackson Wink. Um, Kind of behind the scenes, I'm writing a book slowly about the Jackson Wink story with Mike Winklejohn and Greg Jackson, and it's really cool because it's like you just get to hear all this behind the scenes stuff, and it's fascinating. And then producing a podcast for Heather Winklejohn called She Fights, and it's on our also unstoppable podcast.net page. But it's not about fighting in that way. It's about women overcoming trauma of all kinds.
Mm.
So, wow, it's a powerful program. So, you want to hear that. So, I got interested because maybe, I don't know if it's 10 to 12 years ago. I'm bad at remembering dates, but I started getting into martial arts and I loved it because uh, it kind of reminded me of some of the movements of baseball that I just loved so
Mm.
much, just that throwing, and so there's just some movements that just felt like baseball, and I just really fell in love with it. And so just about a year ago, yeah, when I started working with Jackson Week, I got to now see, I need more water. I got to do a boxing lesson with Coach Mike Winklejohn in the ring, uh, in Albuquerque. There's all these big fighters are there and everything, and it's hilarious. I got pictures of me, but he said, "Hey, most people your age don't even try. They're not getting out here." And
It's true.
I
Very true.
and so now I'm using their self defense app. It's called Smart Girl Self Defense, and then I'm going to start working on my yellow belt with under their system. And of course, so that means I gotta go to the ground and I got to do some MMA stuff now too, which I started learning a little bit. But anyway, I'm so passionate about it like I am about baseball. I don't give up. I've been through some bad situations, I don't even I can't even tell you horrible teachers that I've had, but I don't care. I just got to keep moving and got to keep doing this stuff. And it's just so fun. I'm 5'4 1/4", and 66. But the thing I have is I have learned some things, like you said, your mom said, learn to defend yourself. And I
That's
have the
right.
element of surprise because they're not
And
going to
she
think
did too.
I'm going to be anything. I'm not going to be an easy mark.
Well, Lori, I found it very interesting. Years ago, when my mom was teaching my sisters how to defend themselves, she would teach them punches and kicks and things to ward off the man. And go figure, Lori, go figure. Years later, we'd find out that women who learn self-defense are more likely to survive an RAPE and
Oh,
other
yeah.
violent crimes due to the fact that they have some preparation in self-defense. I think that's very significant and important for women to
Yes.
know that learning self-defense, not only for staying fit, but it's extremely important in higher protecting yourself from danger. And I do remember my mom teaching my sister steps and so forth. Now, back in the day, it used to be kind of funny. We would see mom going, "You do this and you do that." It's just kind of funny, like, what's mom doing? But she really was very serious about it. And then actually, go figure that
That is
that was
so
one of
cool.
the things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got this little redhead Puerto Rican lady from Spanish Harlem teaching her daughter how to do karate chops like she was watching Bruce Lee movies. What's that about?
Yeah. Cute. Well, and awesome at the same time. Yeah. So, and by the way, in the app, they have some of their fighters helping with the self-defense stuff. So they have Holly and they got the Michelle, the karate hottie, you probably remember her too,
I do.
from fights, and they're
Karate
teaching
Hottie is
women.
the name. Karate Hottie
Yeah.
does remember.
So they're teaching self-defense videos on this app as well, and it's in the app store. But um, Coach Wink, Mike Wink, he says that even Holly would do self-defense moves if she were attacked rather than necessarily, what she does in the MMA.
Yeah.
Um, so those are kind of different things. But okay, so I wanted to delve a little more into, people will say, some people still say women shouldn't be fighting. whatever. Because if that were true, women wouldn't be fighter pilots, women wouldn't be in the military, women wouldn't be firefighters. Those are a lot more, intense jobs than being an MMA fighter. And I'm always like, what does it hurt? If like I was telling my husband earlier, Holly, when she goes in the fight, she knows she's going to get smashed in the nose. She knows she's going to bleed, most likely, right? It is violent, but she chooses to do that. Now, as much as I like martial arts and self defense, I don't think I would like getting in a ring and having Ronda Rousey, smash me to the ground. Wouldn't be my thing,
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you. Well, I think there's been a long-standing thing that women are to be protected. My mom enjoyed the protection of my dad because they were old school World War II people. But
Sure,
my mom also felt that women could protect themselves. And so I think when the paradigm shifted during the 60s movement, where women were becoming more feminist and independent, there was this confusion on how to handle that. Women were sure,
mm,
but society was not sure. And women who began to learn how to protect themselves, not only ideologically, but physically, became these powerful vehicles of change. So women fighting, it doesn't, I think the old school says it's not seemly. It doesn't seem seemly, but there is an aspect of it of a woman's confidence building and health and fitness, a number of those things that are, I think, involved in that. And I think with the movement of women feeling like they can protect themselves, to me, women's fighting and the equal rights that women have been looking for, it seems a natural progression, especially seeing Ronda Rousey and Holmes and a number of the fighters. It's a natural progression that women would say, hey, we're a part of this athletic competition. It might be different divisions, but a part of the same sports that we do, women feel that, I'm sorry, not feel, but look extremely confident to be competitors in their own industries as well.
and women have been, doing these really exciting fights and events. I mean, yeah, the men's fights are cool, but it's a little different. I don't know, there's something about it, man. They are
It
so
is.
such go-getters and the fights are really electric and exciting.
They are. And it seems weird. I think we're still trying to deal with some of the shock to see a woman punch a woman in the face. I think there's definitely shock value to it.
Now,
And,
see,
and
you would see that differently as a man, I think, right?
you do. We
But
do.
yeah,
We do.
yeah. Because
And there,
like you said, you've been taught to protect women. So you don't want
yes,
to
very much
see
so.
some pretty woman getting smashed in the face,
You don't. But I think that you
Right.
see it's a competitive sport. When men are watching sports and we're watching women fight each other, I think in the back of our heads, we have this thing like these are two chicks, and chicks being not necessarily the most appropriate term, but oh,
Right.
wait. It has this
These are two
fascinating
women. Yeah,
element to it.
thank you.
Yeah, it has this fascinating element to it. These are two women that are in this sport. And then it does become this other thing about strategy in sport. You see two women professional fighters, and it does make a dude go back and say, you do the comparative thing. These two guys fought, these two women fought, and you do start to see the competitive edge. And I think it feeds into this thing of men's appreciation of sports. You do see women and their appreciation of it, especially true women athletes. Ronda Rousey is a great athlete.
These are great
Being
athletes. Yeah.
and then even in some of the other sports, you see some of that are not in MMA. For example, the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus,
Oh my
they are
goodness. Yeah.
athletes. They are athletes, and so I think that men, because we love sports so much, we can see the value of women who are extreme athletes.
And Holly, I watch her, social media stuff a lot, and she's 44. And I rarely have seen a woman as in shape as this woman is. By the way,
Yes,
that's one of the things that I love about martial arts here at
very
66.
much so.
I'm
Keep
like,
in shape.
I'm working out like crazy because I want to do martial arts and self-defense. It kind of motivates me. So it's this great. But I mean, I'm doing workouts. I do martial arts with weights in my hands. I'm doing squats with weights. I'm like, you know, I do like 30 minutes of an aerobic weight workout. I don't stop like sets in between. I'm like going for it because I want to be as strong as I can be. Um, and we live in a world where we need to be that strong,
We have
for
to.
so
I
many
think,
reasons, for our health
well,
and just protection. Yeah.
that's what I was going to get to is our health. I think the other element to women being in sports is that we've already learned that having a very active physical life is very beneficial to our health. And I think women also see that too, as far as the physical aspects and the health aspects.
I looked up some stats, and right on your point, the average UFC fighter trains uh, like maybe 20 to 30 hours a week on striking, and then another on wrestling, strength training, conditioning, and then of course recovery and nutrition. And now oh boy, they have the nutrition down to a science. Um, Heather Winklejohn just had a program about that on her show, where one of the doctors that, or is she a chiropractor? I can't remember. Works with some of the fighters at Jackson Wink, and man, they got the nutrition down to a science, which I need to keep learning. But yeah, there's so much involved in it. But now, okay, here's another thing. A huge, huge part, Seth, of the UFC and MMA audience is worldwide.
Very much.
In fact, there might be more people internationally watching than there are in the United States. So I find that fascinating. And these young women now are growing up with this. So they're not going to have the same perceptions that our generation had, where women shouldn't be doing this and that, because they're seeing women doing it.
Absolutely. I think that's very significant. I think that's a big change in the last 20 years in particular. I think that's very significant. And I also think that um, uh, women feel a health consciousness, and a part of the health consciousness is self defense. And I think that's why you see healthier vocalization of why health is so important to women nowadays. And I think it's going to continue to grow. I don't see the box of women MMA fighting decreasing at all. Do you?
No, no, it's
Yeah, I
growing.
don't think
And
so either.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, some of the, like I said, these young women growing up, and that's the whole thing in sports. I think the pipeline as we're developing it. I've been learning so much about women's baseball and softball. So Japan dominates in these tournaments, and many people believe it's because they have the system that the girls have the opportunity to play
absolutely.
in grade school, in high school, in park systems, in college, professional leagues. And we don't have that in America. In fact, we keep knocking out sports even for, males, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
we haven't built this pipeline for women to get that experience. So, but we see it in Japan. And that's why we're also getting baseball players like Shohei Ohtani. I mean, they're they're just producing amazing baseball players. So we could use to follow some of that example. And I know people are trying. Like the Women's Professional Baseball League is starting August 1st now. So Justine Siegel, thankful to her that there have been some other attempts at leagues, but she's got this one starting. So it's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. It's also similar, not women's fighting, but Asia. Asia is also starting a new independent female league that's incorporating men
That's
as
right.
well. But getting back to the women's fighting thing, I think it's extremely important because I think women's fighting is one of the most fascinating things. And not just Ronda Rousey, but there's a couple of locals here in Ventura County that are women
Oh,
boxers that I think should be noted as well.
yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, because okay, traditionally women, some of the early MMA fighters started in other sports and then came to MMA, but these girls are starting, like I'm watching classes with 9-year-olds, learning how to take it to the floor, man. So it's like they're coming up with a lot more experience, and there's
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of great, great
We're starting
fighters
earlier
to
too.
watch.
They're starting
Yeah,
earlier
that's
too.
that's what. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was meaning. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, um, so, I mean, there's a lot more opportunity. I think we need more opportunity. Um,
What does that
but
look like for you, though, when you say you think we need more opportunity? What does that look like for you?
yeah, starting girls younger, having more programs for them.
In
Um,
school?
I schools and like, like I was saying in Japan, how they have, public park systems that are creating women's leagues or girls' leagues. And I'll tell you one great thing I see going on though is girl dads. Man, there's so many fathers now who are they teach their young girls sports and they are so, you know, invested in helping them grow and to learn. And I think that's wonderful.
Why do
Um,
you think that's happening?
you know what? That's a good question. Let me ask you that. Why would you think that? Because,
I think because men's dynamics have changed. The importance of family
mm,
has changed with men. I think in the last few years where men, we've been so career driven that things kind of circle back and we find families extremely important. So I think girl dads are a symbol of that, where they said, hey, my family is very important too. So I think it's kind of a circle back where men are just that, this is that important. Let me be there for my daughter or my son. I think we're
yeah.
having that. Yeah, because I think a number of families, in particular, certain dads have felt that I don't have time with my kids, but I want that, so they have to do more. So those dads are doing extras to show that even though they have to work extra, they're still going to have that time with their kids. I think that's part of it. I think we circle back to that.
Now, I mean, moms are involved too. There's,
Oh, they are for
going
sure.
back,
But in particular,
going
our
back
question was
to,
about men.
yes, it was. But I was just thinking, going back to what you said about my mom was also World War II generation, and she could do underhand fast pitch in softball. Like
Oh my
she
goodness.
was, she was great.
My sister
Um,
too.
is that right? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my sister Sophie. Yeah,
Yeah, I just didn't want to leave out that the women are also influential, but I do like seeing that, the dads and husbands are, wow. A lot of the stories as I am, um, doing these interviews with women in sports, like Isla Borders was one of the first women in the modern era to pitch men's professional baseball. She did it, I think it was the Atlantic League. I'm just learning about these other leagues other than Major League Baseball I didn't know about. It was a team who was partially owned by Bill Murray. But anyway, she
Bill
talked a
Murray, the
lot and
comedian.
yeah,
Oh wow, go
yeah,
figure.
yeah. He's a huge baseball fan, Cub fan and everything too. But so she was a pitcher and she wasn't just a token on the team. She was like really, you know, very high level pitcher. She didn't get to play that long, but she talked about her dad was I think he might have been a semi-pro baseball player and he just worked her like, a real athlete as a little girl and then she just, you know, she never thought about doing anything else, at that point. So I just hear these inspiring stories about fathers, really bringing it for their daughters like that. And I love that. I'm going to do more episodes that focus just on that because I think that's
I think so.
a wonderful thing.
I
Because
do,
we,
and
yeah,
I
go ahead.
was just going to add. I think it's also important for brown women, Hispanic women, and Black women. I think the sports arena is also another avenue to pursue their dreams outside of that. And I think that's something to be touched on too. By no means
Yeah.
just militantly, but I think that's an important element to this conversation.
Yes. I don't know, maybe it's the Chicago girl in me and I did
I
grow
like
up,
that.
as a Christian. But
Oh yeah.
if you are,
Well, hold up, hold up,
uh,
hold up. You said you did grow up as a Christian.
I am, yeah, one, but I
We
didn't
always
mean I
pause on
used to
that.
be. What's that?
No, I was just appreciating that because we don't get
Oh,
to say
yeah.
that often, and so it's good to say that as well.
Well, so what it did, it gave me this view, I believe we're all God's creation. And if you are different than I am, if you're a different nationality, if you come from a different culture than I am, you're probably going to be the first person I'm going to make friends with because I don't know, I see the world and I just want to fliver it in. So if you're a person of color or you're, from, I don't know, another country, I'm going to promote you, and I'm especially women. I'm going to try everything I can to put you out there, like our young friend Asia, because I just think it's so important, and as older women, we have to do everything we can to try to mentor young women too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't
Asia
know
has
if
an up.
that made sense, but yeah.
It did. Asia has an uphill battle too. She was in our during our interview. She was mentioning that she is falling into some challenges as far as getting recognized to participate in the Olympics. So anyone who's listening
Yeah.
to this broadcast tonight, I definitely ask you to, pardon me, check out Asia Hot Sauce Smiley because
Yeah.
she definitely is having some challenges as far as introducing herself as participant for the Olympics. So that is something significant for us to know.
Yeah, we got to keep knocking on all those doors, don't we?
Absolutely,
You know?
absolutely,
And so yeah, so I think within that conversation is all these young women need our support. They need our
absolutely.
support, and we don't need men feeling like it's some sort of intrusion into their world and going, who cares about women's sports? Well, you know what? These are people with dreams and hopes, and like Asia even talked about, it goes beyond just the sport, because she's
It really
offering
does.
mentoring in every way that she can help other young athletes, so um, someone like that, I want to help, I want to see what can I do, so yeah, there's so many young women like that out there, you know.
They really
Um,
are.
we
She's
see a
one of
lot
the
of,
many.
yeah, our world is stressful, and there's so much going on, but I try to focus on what can we do and what good example can we provide, you know?
These conversations, I think these conversations are one of them. I think the broadcasting of these conversations are some of those as well. I think
Mm.
for us to continue to acknowledge young women like Asia is a big part of this. I think for us acknowledging women like Venus and Serena and Ronda Rousey are some of that. I think we're doing it. You and I are at the cutting edge of doing some of that stuff by providing platforms for them to be able to express their voices. I think these are the things that we're supposed to be doing, and we're doing them.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm so happy to have you, and I hope we're going to do this often because I think we
I
could
hope so too.
talk
We
all
got
night.
plenty to talk. Oh, we can.
Right?
There's
Yeah.
plenty for us to talk about. I think in the upcoming times we're going to be picking out some of our favorite MMA fighters and debating over them because I'm going to have to pick the winners and you're going to have to pick the losers, obviously. Or
Oh
no, I should
man.
say I'm sure I'm going to have to be wrong just once in a while. So
Just on a funny note, my pastor, uh, Al Espinosa, he's amazing, amazing man. He actually said this during a sermon last week that the righteous will be cheering for Spain in the soccer final.
my wife, so funny. My wife was just talking to me about that today. I said, "Get out of here, chick." there she,
So apparently, I'm not allowed to cheer for Argentina. So he
no,
made it a spirit.
I look forward to this. I look forward to us showing, cheering for who would be the righteous. No, I think we have a number of conversations that could be really great. I can't express Lori enough. I know this was our introduction into camaraderie and our individual podcast, but I got to say, I thank you so much, A, for coming on my podcast, and B, for allowing me this opportunity for myself and my show on Maker's Bar, and C, for us beginning this process of being able to say how much I think we both have to contribute to the conversation, not only of women in sports and women who are great, but conversations that are allowing the spotlight to be placed on those women who are making steps that people don't know about, which I really want to spotlight the young lady who you introduced me to, Asia Hot Sauce. I think us getting back together is going to be putting the spotlight on some of the young women that are not as well known, but they're
Well,
making
we need to have
extreme
her come
strides.
on with us.
I
So
would love that.
people, because
Oh,
you
she
can
was a
hear
dynamo.
her. Oh, yeah. And so go ahead and tell people how they can find Maker's Bar and give us all that info via.
Absolutely. So, anyone, please do me a favor before anything else. For Lori's broadcast this evening, go to her channel, press subscribe, press like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you.
And second, go to absolutely go to YouTube and go to Makersbar YouTube channel. We are expanding, going into Spotify and some other social media sites. Please press like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing is really important to myself and Lori. If you have been enjoying some of the things we've been bringing to you, help us to grow by bringing more people. That's what we're trying to do. So please subscribe to our channels. Not only that, but tell people, and also some of the clips that go out. Some of you guys don't know. For myself, for Makersbar Bar and Lori, I'm not sure if you're doing clips as well yet, but
Just
those clips
starting.
help. Fantastic. Well, please do share our clips. And then I do, Lori, I think it's really important for you and I. We have a great deal of partnership with LinkedIn. And there's some extremely beautiful, wonderful people that are on LinkedIn that we've had the opportunity to share an interview with. And I want to thank LinkedIn a great deal. So on LinkedIn, check out Lori Lewis, and on LinkedIn, check out Makersbar, check out Seth Garu Baxter. So if you are interested in being able to hear more content like this, where it's the people you want to hear their stories and those stories that are great heroes that we should be sharing more, check out Makersbar YouTube and Seth Garu Baxter on LinkedIn and Lori Lewis on LinkedIn. We appreciate all your support, and we're looking forward to bringing you some more people that we are all interested in finding out about. And I'd like to add, and I say at the end of each of my shows, the revolution that we've always wanted is the Lovolution. The Lovolution is a revolution of love. Go out there and create a revolution of love. We extremely appreciate, and I say extremely all the time because I really want to emphasize how grateful we are that you have tuned in to us this evening. And we look forward to seeing all of you again. Makersbar, Seth Garu Baxter, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
All right. Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely, Lori Lewis, and thank you for your husband and being a part of this and helping us get together tonight. And thank you so much. It really is appreciative for me to be on your broadcast, and I look forward to some more interactions and more guest
Absolutely.
appearances for each of us.
Can't wait. Thank you so
Can't wait.
much.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Lori.